Hello folks, welcome back for yet another build video. This time around, it's melee only. So right off the top, I want to address the obvious point here. This is not necessarily a build you're going to run all the time. It's not even one you're going to run most of the time. But what it is for is hitting people, and it does that surprisingly well considering we are trying to do a melee only build in a cover-based looter shooter. So with that in mind, let's get into this one. So for the specialization, we've gone with Firewall. Couple great reasons for that. One is the Firewall Tactical Link, where you and your allies, but specifically you, deal 10% damage to enemies that are within 10 meters of yourself, and that does include melee damage. Additionally, there is Fiery Response, which on armor break applies burn to enemies within 5 meters, giving yourself additional time to get some hits in after your armor breaks. But again, primarily we're looking at the Firewall Tactical Link because it does buff your melee damage to enemies within 10 meters, which they obviously have to be if you're hitting them. For our primary weapon, and really our only weapon, we've gone with the Lady Death, specifically for one reason and one reason only, and that is the Underbarrel Slot Kiss of Death, which has 500% melee damage, and that is going to be one of the main sources of our melee damage in this build. On top of that, kills grant 20% movement speed, which is a great way to keep moving around and pummeling your enemies. Our secondary weapon, we've gone with the Mop. If you need to switch to it to get some armor back, it's not a bad way, but honestly, you're just going to be running with Lady Death and living or dying on those melee hits. That's what the whole build is about. But obviously, if you don't want to go down all of the time, the Mop is a great way to get armor on kill. You've got 10% from that attribute slot, and then an additional 10 or 20% from the preservation talent. Secondary weapon, we've gone with the TDI card custom. That +1 skill tier is nice if you need to swap to it to pull out your shield and buff your drone skill. But ultimately, you're going to be running with the Lady Death first and foremost for that 500% melee damage that it provides. For our mask, we have our first of 3 pieces of Hunter's Fury. As you can see, we also have the Ninja Bike Messenger Bag there to top off that 4th piece. Originally, the idea with Hunter's Fury was to see if that Apex Predator debuff amplified your melee damage. I'm not sure that it does, but what is great is that disorient on kill to all enemies within 5 meters. It's just a fantastic way to give yourself more time to run around, keep hitting your enemies, hopefully keep getting kills, and keep debuffing your enemies until you take them all down. For the backpack, we have the Ninja Bike Messenger Bag here for 2 primary reasons. One, the Resourceful talent does obviously allow us to get the second brand bonuses from Wyvernware and Providence Defense. Wyvernware is a little more impactful there, I'll go into that later. But primarily the reason that we went with the Ninja Bike Messenger backpack here is for that armor and skill tier, which increased our shield tiers and also increased the skill of our drone. And obviously we didn't go with Memento because we needed to get that Resourceful talent bonus to get us that 4 pieces of Hunter's Fury to proc Apex Predator. As with the mask and chest piece, we've gone with Protection from Elites here. Unsurprisingly, there aren't really any mods that are melee focused, so I just felt that Protection from Elites was a good complement to this melee build, but obviously if you have something else, you can go with it here. For the chest piece, we've got a bit of a surprise. We've gone with the Sacrifice, which is the named Providence Defense chest piece. Neither of those brand bonuses are really helping out much, except when we have to go to the Mop, but crucially, the talent Perfect Glass Cannon amplifies all damage that we deal by 30%, and that does include melee damage. Obviously, you also amplify the damage you take by 60%, but between all the armor cores and the shield, it actually doesn't feel too bad. And again, the main purpose here was buffing that damage output. If you're not as inclined to go the glass cannon route, Zero Fs is another great piece to run here. When you couple Fiery Response with Unbreakable, it actually makes a really great pairing to allow you to have your armor break, refill, and apply burn to an enemy within 5 meters. So it's a definite route you could go here as well. For our gloves, we have our second piece of Hunter's Fury. I didn't get into it on the mask, but we have an armor core rerolled here, and then in the attribute slot, we've got armor regen. Really, that attribute slot isn't doing a ton for us. So armor regen's a good way to go, but the main point here is you want to reroll that core attribute to armor because you don't really care about weapon cores. You want as many armor cores as you possibly can. For the holster, we've gone with the Claws Out holster. This is a Darkstone exclusive, but it is Also very crucial to this build, as you have that first attribute there of plus 500% melee damage, bringing us to that grand total of 1000% melee damage. The rest of those attributes don't really make a dang difference, but I will note that the skill tier here is actually doing some work, giving us a much better drone, which I did feel was important, but obviously you could also roll this core attribute to armor to give yourself even more armor if that's the way you want to go. For our knee pads, we have our last piece of Hunter's Fury, coupled with the Ninja Bike Messenger Bag. We've got that plus 4-piece bonus of Apex Predator. Talked about it before. The Disorient on Kill is a fantastic talent for this melee build. You can run in there, melee an enemy to death. Typically my strategy with this build was, especially when you're hitting a resource convoy, is to go in there, target the normal red enemy, take him down, hit him to death. The rest of the enemies should be grouped up close enough that they all get the Disorient, which will allow you to turn around, take another one down, and just keep going through that kill chain until they're all taken care of. For our skills, we've gone with the Striker Drone and the Striker Ballistic Shield. And this is the Firewall variant, which is another great way to get some additional bonus damage when you need to pull it out. But I also want to talk about the Striker Drone here. You could go a number of different routes. The Revive Hive obviously comes to mind. Any number of the armor repair skills could also work. And then I did trial the Defender Drone. The reason I went with the Striker Drone instead was largely because of the much longer duration and the fact that it distracts your enemies. Given that we're only dealing with a tier 2 drone here, I didn't feel the Defender Drone was doing enough work and from a protective standpoint, which meant that I wanted to opt for a Striker Drone and really just use it as a distraction to turn some enemy heads so you can rush in, melee them with Lady Death, and hopefully take them down that way. On top of which you get a little bit of offensive capability, but again, the main point of the Striker Drone here is as a distraction so you can run in, hit them up, and take them down. And then obviously here we've gone with the Striker Ballistic Shield. Another route you could go with is the Bulwark Ballistic Shield if you want that full body protection. I opted not to do that because it automatically switches you off of the Lady Death whenever you do that to your sidearm, and I wanted to keep the Lady Death equipped as often as possible. So as you'll see in the video, the basic strategy here is run in, take them by surprise, take down the weak one, proc Apex Predator, and then just start that kill chain to work your way through them. My final thoughts on this: obviously this is not an optimal build. You're working against the entire looter shooter concept, but it is really, really fun, and it is surprisingly viable even on heroic difficulty. You'll see in the video later, that's what I'm running most of the time. I did switch down to challenging just once to show you how much better this build hits on challenging and lower difficulties. On challenging and lower difficulties, this is a fantastic way to just run around, have some fun, and literally hit people to death. But even on heroic, it's not entirely a liability. It's definitely not something I would recommend running in a group of randos. But if you're running with your friends, you want to have some fun, put this build on, get out there, punch some enemies in the face, and really just enjoy yourself. This is legitimately one I'm probably going to keep in the loadout rotation just because it brought such a smile to my face to melee enemies in this game, which is obviously not something I'm accustomed to doing. And I'm really quite happy the way this one turned out. So try this one out. It's obviously an unorthodox build, but I think it's a great way to have a lot of fun doing a slappers only run of a major cover-based looter shooter. Let me know in the comments what you think of this one. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more weird stuff like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Incoming hostile. down. We are done. Stand there and support.
Assistance needed. Hostile broadcast detected. Serious trauma detected. Detecting additional hostile contacts.
Now you'll think twice.